Tamoor. I assume you're for it.
Yeah, I mean my presumption is obviously I think it's too close to call. I think the campaign have got a very strong message and during this local election period and the period following that up until the 23rd of June, we've got a big job to do in terms of making that compelling case to the public about why we're stronger in the European Union than we are.
Yeah. I'd just like to come back on that because Alan Johnson, the leader of the Remain campaign for Labour, has actually said in recent weeks that the Remain party is getting no traction, and he said the arguments aren't getting over to people. So I'd like to ask you first of all what you think the arguments are for Remain, because I haven't heard any legitimate arguments. Labour come out with nothing, and they're really relying on David Cameron to sort of close all the arguments. I think.
Well, you're saying the country hasn't sort of come to terms with the arguments from the Stronger Remain campaign. I disagree with you, and I disagree with you because I think it's going to be a slow process. If you expect this day...
I want you to actually... I want you to give me now some reasons.
Okay,
because
let me
answer.
I don't interrupt you, let me answer. We're not at a stage yet where you can expect everyone in the country to understand the issues around whether we're in or out of the European Union. We are quite a number of weeks or months away.
We're only 6 weeks away. We need to be putting these things on the table now for people. So can you give the viewers now good reasons to remain in the European Union?
Yeah, there are many good reasons in terms of our small and medium-sized businesses depend on it, in terms of the trade investment that we have, the jobs that depend on it, in terms of the employment rights, from maternity and paternity leave.
Okay,
these will all be lost.
Okay, just some facts for our figures.
The European arrest warrant is another issue.
It's 13 weeks.
Okay. Oh, well, it seems like it seems. I think I'm thinking of local.
You're thinking of local elections.
But let me come back on this gentleman's thing. First of all, he mentioned small business. Well, let's understand first of all, we have to abide by 100% of the regulation from the European Union. Only 10% of our business export to the European Union, first of all. Is that a good deal, first of all? No, it's not.
Where are those figures from? I've seen other figures from the CPI which say that if we leave the European Union, we'll lose £100 billion.
Well, the question was about small business. I'm giving you figures on regulation, and 100%. We have to abide by 100% of regulation. Yet only 10% of our business actually exports to the European Union. That's a fact. If you check your facts on that one. On trade's a very, very interesting one because this is the Remain campaign's big gun really, saying that if we leave the European Union, we won't have any trade. Well, the fact of the matter is, we're the European Union's biggest customer. As any business would tell you, ask any businessman or businessman watching this show today. If you've got, you are not going to say, go away to your biggest customer. The EU cannot afford to not trade with us. And in fact, other countries trade with the European Union. For example, in 2012, China did £290 billion worth of trade with the European Union, and they're not in political union. So you don't need to be in a political union to trade with someone. That's
right. But I think the point is whether you'd had the United Kingdom sat around the table with the other 27 sort of members of the European Union, or whether you'd have the United Kingdom isolated on the world stage, not having a voice, not able to influence when there are major issues taking place. Well, I think that is...
let me answer that question because it's a good point. It's a good point. You say we'd be isolated on trade. Well, the fact of the matter is, under the European Union, we are trade... Let me answer this question, because you put that question, let me answer this question.
Let me just give you another fact. According to independent financial analysts, more than 50% of our exports go to European Union countries.
Let me answer the question first of all. He mentioned we wouldn't have a voice in the world on trade. Our trade deals since 1975 have been made by the European Commission. So the European Commissioner goes on our behalf and makes trade deals. Outside of the European Union, we would have a seat on all the international bodies on trade. We would have our own seat, and we would be able to make trade deals that benefit our country. But here's the bigger one, and this is to the people at the audience, and this is what normal, because people say, I can't understand the issues, I can't understand the European Union. Well, this is a really basic one. If we come out of the European Union, not only will we definitely trade with the European Union because they couldn't afford not to trade, but also we would be able to make trade deals with the rest of the world, including, which I believe is a bigger friend to us, the Commonwealth. And many of our listeners will know the Commonwealth very well. We've got friends and family there. That's a huge trading bloc. It's a bigger trading bloc than the European Union. It's got billions of people. If you're suggesting, if Labour's suggesting, this just shows how incompetent Labour are on money. If you're suggesting that a declining market in the European Union of 500 million people is comparable to the Commonwealth of over billions of people and the North America, you can also trade deals with North America.
These trade deals would take 7, 8, 10 years to negotiate.
That's nonsense, Mohammed.
What about the 3 million jobs in the United Kingdom that depend on that?
This is another myth. This is another myth by the Remain campaign. And
You think everything's a myth?
I'll tell you why it's a myth.
The only facts come from the out campaign.
Listen, this is why
everything else.
Well, I'll tell you why it's a myth, and then you can judge yourself. The Remain campaign.
I'll just sit here and have a
The Remain campaign says that we'll lose 3 million jobs, but they're presupposing that our trade will stop completely with the European Union. No economist in the world is suggesting that that would happen. It would be financial suicide for the European Union. It would be not in our best interest. It would be no one's interest to not have a trade deal. That trade deal would be a bespoke trade deal for the UK, and it would be better than the trade deals that Norway have got. It would be better than trade deals that Iceland have got, and it would be better than trade deals from the South American countries have. Because for one reason, we are still the 5th biggest economy in the world. We would be able to make a very, very good trade deal with the European Union. They would not stop selling us their cars, or French wines, or all their goods. That would never happen in a million years. David Cameron knows that, the Labour Party know that, and the people at home probably know that as well.
Most people today would make a decision based on instinct, wouldn't they? And when they go into the, ballot room, I'm going to put that cross on yes or no, they will make a decision how it will affect them financially.
This is not a referendum on the government or on the opposition or any political party for that matter, not even UKIP. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to have a say on the political future of the United Kingdom, whether we stay as part of the European Union or whether we're out. And I think the arguments aren't as simplistic as the out campaign I've put forward tonight, and generally, as we've heard, these are very, very important issues.
Okay.
And when people do go to the ballot box on the 23rd of June, they've got to think very, very carefully, not just about today or tomorrow.
Okay,
but
no, I
the
hear
future
that.
generation of this country.
Let me ask you, Tamoor. Worst case scenario, say Britain votes, or best case scenario for the people who are campaigning for out, that Britain votes to leave. How does that make you feel?
That obviously is a democratic process, and people will have had their say.
But you would argue that it would affect the economy of Britain standing in the
Yeah,
way.
I mean, obviously, it would weaken this country compared to when we're in the when we're in the European Union, and people will obviously see the consequences.
Can I just let me ask you the question.
Okay.
Put the other way around. June the 23rd.
Yeah, but you don't
We then have 2 years
question.
of protracted negotiations with the European Union, and then a date in 2 years' time. I've seen 2018, June 2018, when Britain would formally leave the European Union. What sort of renegotiation would need to go on, and what sort of things would you get from the European Union if Britain voted?
Well, as I mentioned before, there's absolutely no doubt, and no economist is saying this, there's no doubt we would have a trade deal, and it would be a very, very good trade deal, because they actually...
Would you be able to negotiate that in just 2 years?
Well,
When the trade agreement with North America took us 7 years?
Because for the very reason is, if the other party wants the deal, they'll do the deal. They need us more than we need them. The EU would be on our doorstep, would be begging us for a trade deal. That would happen as quickly as we wanted that to happen. And at the same time, you see, as well, when we're making our trade deal with the EU, we could then, as I say, when we joined the European Union, we had to sever all our trade links, our trade deals with the Commonwealth. We could then ring our Commonwealth friends and say, we're here now. Already, we've had former leaders of Australia and New Zealand and Canada saying, come on, we want to join you again in the Commonwealth. So they're waiting for us to leave the European Union so we can join the world.
So
this is the key.
would you be happy to see them former Prime Ministers campaign or give a message to the British people to vote to leave?
Which Prime Minister? Our Prime Minister?
The Prime Ministers you're mentioning from the Commonwealth.
Yeah, well, as I say, I mean,
Would you be happy for them to express an opinion
I think it's...
in favour of leaving?
Everyone's got an opinion to make, and their opinion is... I agree with their opinion, and because they're a member of the Commonwealth, you know, they understand how big a trading bloc it is now, how important it is for trade. And, you know, it would be neutral benefits to the Commonwealth.
Let me just give you one more question, because for our viewers' sake, let me also tell you that President Obama is coming to the UK in end of April. He's coming on his farewell tour. Obviously, he stands down in January 2017, obviously just after the presidential elections in November this year. And President Obama is saying that Britain should stay in the European Union because our relationship is stronger. Do you welcome President Obama's intervention?
As I said to you before, I believe in freedom of speech. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. President Obama could say that, but we could look down the line, and the new president of the United States, Donald Trump, might have a very different idea. So you know,
well, that's a completely different debate.
But everyone's entitled to their own
Let's take a call, gentlemen. Let's go to Rochdale. Ask him is there. He was there. Ask him if he's still there. Call his back.
No, we have desserts.
So yeah, Donald Trump
Put a lot of effort
as
into
president.
dessert.
As President Donald Trump.
It's cornettos.
Well, I mean, what I'm trying to understand. Can I just give you the question?
Toffee.
The sense that most people are watching this, and I get a sense of walking, traveling around the country and talking to people. Most people don't understand the debate. You know, you guys are passionate because you're on the side, but in reality, the vast majority of British people don't know enough about the debate.
You're right.
How will you convince them to reach a decision?
We have got to make it relevant to people's lives. So when you don't talk about it in terms of political terms, whether it'll benefit UKIP, Labour or Conservative, you've got to relate it to everyday life. So what will be the impact on pensioners, and the impact on young people, the impact on families, the employment rights, paternity leave, maternity leave, and the other employment rights that we've got over the last decade through the benefits of being in the European Union. And if you look at in terms of our young people, how they've been able to benefit through skills and jobs, again that will have an impact on our economy. If you look at how we've managed to protect our pensioners with their rights to the European Union, that their pensions will also be able to if we were to leave the European Union. So it will affect a wider...
Well, as a result of the Brussels terrorist attacks, we saw a unanimous statement released by the 28 leaders of the respective countries. That includes presidents and prime ministers. And tomorrow there's an EU Interior Justice Ministers who will be meeting in Brussels to discuss a pan-European reaction to the terrorist attacks in Europe. Obviously the meeting is not going to be an easy one, and they'll be taking into account a referendum on the EU membership. And some nationalistic statements from various member countries about the refugee and migrant crisis. What do you think? I mean, I asked you the same question, Jason. Most people are not, i.e. interested in the debate, two, don't really know enough about the debate to pass a judgment, and will go with instinct. That's right. How do you convince people to support your cause?
Right. Well, let me give you. Let me ask a really good question, and this will resonate with the audience. This is what I want to ask my colleague here. And I'm surprised that an Asian gentleman from Labour is actually supporting the European Union, which discriminates against people from outside the European Union, from Asia.
Well, that's a British
I don't think there's anything to do. I don't think it's appropriate to bring my ethnicity into it.
Listen, I'm making this point. You can argue this point if you don't agree with it. The European Union says we have free movement of people from the European Union, and we let as many of them in as we can, but then we close the borders off to everybody who's outside the European Union, anyone who's from Asia, anyone who's from Africa. I believe we should have a fair policy where we let anyone, whoever wants.
Your party would have a moratorium for 5 years, so nobody would be getting in for 5 years anyway.
We would have 50,000 people a year, but we wouldn't say where these people come from. This is the key. So under the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, they'll let as many people from Europe in as possible, but they will discriminate against people from Asia, people from the Commonwealth, people from Africa, people from the rest of the world. That's a discriminatory policy. And I'm surprised.
Do you think that's resonating when you're out in Bradford?
Well, it is resonating actually, Mohammed, because I'm people coming up to me on the street, Asian background, and they're saying to me, You know, we're coming out of this European Union. It discriminates against us. When we look for a bride abroad, we have problems bringing those people in. When our family.
You're not suggesting that UKIP's new policy is going to support people bringing in their husbands and brides.
I'm not saying that, Mohammed. I'm saying this is what people are telling me on the streets, and this is from the Asian community.
Okay.
And I want to answer
If you've got an argument here that UKIP of all parties have become the champion of the Asian community in this country, I just find that is a joke.
Well, you're not the champion of them by discriminating against them.
Well, I'm not here to speak for the Asian community. I happen to be somebody of Asian heritage who represents a Labour Party. I don't define myself as representing the Asian community. And for you to make that generalisation, I find very offensive.
Well, I think
that is a problem with American culture in this country.
I think the viewers at home will look at the Labour Party and will look at the Conservative Party and think they're not speaking.
No, I think the viewers at home will look at you and say UKIP is a racist, right-wing political party who is using any issues and any culture for its political benefit.
This is exactly what you get from Labour. No, listen, man.
No, it's exactly what you get from
Gentlemen,
They've lost the argument to results to insult. This is the Labour Party.
I'm talking
about fact.
Gentlemen, can I ask you the question? Can I ask you the question in regards to this whole debate? You talked about the Commonwealth and in terms of immigration.
Yeah.
But that's a decision made in Westminster.
The Commonwealth.
But no, the decision to restrict immigration from the Commonwealth is a decision made by successive Labour and Conservative governments. Why blame Europe for something they've got no involvement in?
Why is it a decision, Mammy? The reason why it's a decision in Westminster is because we have open borders to 500 million people. The government has to restrict immigration somehow, so they've got to restrict everybody else in order to let all these people in. But what we should be doing is
politics is a part of
what we should be doing is having a sensible, non-discriminating policy. I mean, under what we'd like to see is if we get a doctor, if he comes from India, if he comes from Australia, if he comes from Europe or America, it doesn't matter to us. Whoever that best person is should come into the country. Discriminate against people.
You're not seriously suggesting UKIP has now become the champion of immigration. What I'm saying to
you is, Mohammed, if you look at our policy, we are the champion of a fair immigration policy. We're the only party that doesn't discriminate.
Which leads to a moratorium for 5 years. That's what manifesto the party stood on.
We will have a fit.
Do you accept that?
We will have.
You accept the moratorium for 5 years.
That was our policy on the last general election.
Oh, so you're changing your policy now?
Everyone changes the policy every general election, Mohammed. But what our policy is, 50,000 people a year, we will let 50,000. That's about how many we can cope with on our public services. 50,000 people a year. But we won't say where these people come from. The Labour Party will say, "Oh, Europeans, come as many as you want. People from Asia, people from Africa. Sorry, we can't have you." That's a discriminatory policy.
Because you accept that the restrictions in terms of the Commonwealth. Immigration restrictions, started under your government.
You're right, and that there have been restrictions placed while Labour were in government. But I think we need to, this debate is a lot wider than that. Whether, if you're trying to say, if my colleague from UKIP is trying to say that by being out of the European Union, obviously we won't have that free movement of people, but on the other hand, we'll have free movement or we'll welcome people in to this country from elsewhere in the Commonwealth. I don't believe that for a minute. I think
clearly, if I'm honest with you, he looks like the one who's winning, and you look dejected. And everybody I've spoken to from the Remain camp seems to be in this really dark mood. Where's the optimism?
There is no optimism, Alan Johnson said Jason,
it's a genuine question. Everybody I've spoken to from the Remain camp doesn't seem to have the same optimism as the people who want to leave. Does that worry you?
It doesn't worry me at all because I don't agree with what you say. But what is true?
I'm just asking you a question.
What is true, if you are trying to stick with the status quo, which is staying within the European Union, the argument does become that more challenging. So do we have a task on our hands? Yes, we do. Do we have the arguments to convince the British public that we should remain within the European Union? I think we do. Because if you look at skills, if you look at jobs, if you look at people's security, we are far better in the European Union than we are out of it. And that has been said by many people, whether they are linked to any political party or not. It is a
final question. I've got no time left.
Okay.
Final question, 10 seconds. Do you think Britain will leave?
Britain will leave. It'll be close, but Britain will leave.
Tamoor.
I think will remain in because the British public will realise and acknowledge and understand that their security of their family and also the security of this country is far better off by remaining in the European
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. Councillor Tariq from Labour, who is in, and Jason Smith from UKIP, who is obviously an outer. That's the debate about the EU referendum. Obviously, the closer we get to the debate, we'll have people, formal representatives from the both camps, once they've been declared. And let's just finish off and give you that news coming from Brussels. Belgium is observing 3 days of national mourning following the deadly attacks in Brussels.
Thank you.
The 2 suicide bombers have been named. One of them is still at large. And we've seen over 31 people killed and over 300 people have been injured. Of those, 150 are still in hospital. So-called Islamic State have said they're behind the attacks. For those of our viewers who happen to be Muslim, I think it's very, very important that we send a very clear message that the terrorists don't act in our name. They are an affront to our faith, and it's their barbarism that is the issue here. And